Well, I guess that was fun, wasn't it? It's real different, real interesting dynamic between this service and the last service. I said when I got up, I wish I had $1 for every amen I didn't hear. But you all are not doing that much better, to be honest with you. I couldn't pay no bills with your money. I am incredibly, deeply moved and touched repeatedly and honored that we have been so wonderfully received here at All Souls as we are. And everybody's making adjustments, and one of the most brilliant and intelligent, charming, witty, funny, spiritual, scholarly preachers in the world sits right there. You're beautiful. Marlon. And I'm proud to call him my pastor. And the pastor of my family right here. And the pastor of my church. And I say that without fear of contradiction, that this church is the expression, I think, intelligent expression of the God consciousness in this city. And many people are talking about us. They're wondering if this is going to work. Gina and I have been married 3 weeks, and we went to a place in Los Angeles to shop with another couple friend of ours. And the lady said to Gina was trying on new clothes, we're buying new outfits. And the lady said, well, how long have y'all been married? We said 3 weeks. And she said, oh, and they said it wouldn't last. We've been here, what, a month? 2 months, and they said it wouldn't last. Now, we're 15 years, and I don't know how long, 15 years from now, when we're in the brand new building, jammed and packed on Sunday mornings with 3 services. Some of y'all don't want that, I realize. We're upsetting your little quiet community here. But we're adjusting it little by little, the music and the sound and what we do and how we do it, and we're just kind of working through some things as people who believe that human beings can get along, that you don't have to go along to get along. And we can mind many of the same things without having the same mind about everything. That's the unique combination here, that the wine is not in the grape, it's in the cluster. Universe, this is the All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church. Universe, that's mean one verse, one version, and one versification, making a whole. We're all versions of each other, and verses in each other's poem or each other's story. And we're versifications of a commonality that we call life. And we're all beautiful, and we're all special, and we're all unique, ethnically, nationally, culturally, gender-wise. We all coincide. We need each other. And I think Tulsa has long missed the opportunity to express that unity in a way that all souls is doing. And so to this illustrious pastor and to the board and to all of you who are a part, the man's taking my church, he got my staff, I'm just here. I'm trying to decide if I really do like you or not, Doc. Call you and ask for permission. All right. I want to talk a little bit this morning from the subject, the urge and urgency of change. Oh, it's not that bad, honey. The urge and urgency and sometimes the angst and agony of change. Last Sunday, I was in Chicago, Illinois at the rededication of the mosque with Minister Louis Farrakhan, whom I've become close. I spent 4 hours in his home. I'd gone to his home because in years past, before I was an inclusionist, made some disparaging comments about him, and it went out over the media. And I began to get calls from some of his leaders. And so when I was in Chicago, I said, take me by his home. We had to go through the metal detectors and all that, and I was going to spend about 20 minutes with him. I ended up there 4 hours. And then he came the next morning to the service where I ministered. We talked for 4 hours about the issues of inclusion, about the Christ consciousness, about Jesus, about the church. He'd heard all the preachers, and he listened to them on television. We discussed their different approaches to religion and reality. And then he said, where are you preaching tomorrow, son? And I told him, and he came. He sat on the front row. And so he rededicated the mosque, and it was an ecumenical gathering. There was actually an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. There was some Hindus and Sikhs and Christians, Jews. They all came together, and the place was packed. There was about, they tell me about 10,000 under the tent, maybe 5,000 to 10,000 people outdoors, and we were in the church. Recently, I had a chance, just before Russell Bennett passed away, to go to his bedside. Russell Bennett was one of my very dear friends who was of the United Church of Christ, who wrote me when I first became an inclusionist, and the Tulsa World ran the story. And he wrote a letter welcoming me to their fellowship. I wasn't sure he knew what he was talking about, because at that time, UCC, United Church of Christ, I thought that was the Church of Christ. And I said, I'm sure they're not welcoming me. Not that I don't have many Church of Christ friends, but I was at his bedside when his wife informed me that I had called him the Antichrist, or said that he was an Antichrist. The other Carlton Pearson was pretty rough, and I'm getting to know the new one now, you know. And I didn't remember that. I said, what do you mean I called? She said, well, it was in the newspaper. You referred to him. And I remember I had written an editorial at some time years ago about some group of preachers that I saw everybody as an Antichrist, almost, if you weren't a part of my church in those days. You have no idea how delivered I am from the arrogance and sometimes the ignorance of dogmatic zealousness. And I hurt a lot of people, and I realized that. And now that I've shifted in my thinking, and the universe is cooperating with this charge and this change, I'm very grateful. But anyway, I sat by his bedside. He's sucking on a little sponge with water in it, just hours before his transition. And he's sucking on the sponge because he can't drink water for his parched tongue and mouth. And I'm holding his hand and stroking his brow. And his wife says, and he didn't want her to say it, but you know, brothers, we can't stop them when they want to say it. So she confronted me with that, and I was so glad she did. I said, did I call you Antichrist? He said, don't worry about it, Carlton. And I said, Russell, I am so sorry. And I reached over and kissed him. And I held his hand, and we talked about death and life and things like that. And he said, it doesn't matter to me at all. I said, well, I needed to be able to tell you I'm sorry. I apologize for what I said, for the way I said it. I didn't know what a tender, sweet man you are. And even though I drove by this church many times and tried to cast the devil out of it, I just became a devil and came right in with you. So it's amazing how all the people I denounced are now my friends. I hang out with them. And so I'm going through a dramatic personal change, the urge and urgency of change. Bruce Fairfield Barton said, keep changing. When you're through changing, you're through. The world at large is dealing with both the urge and urgency, and in some cases, the emergency of and to change. We have a group of gentlemen here and a lady from Kenya who ran in the Tulsa run. The Kenyans win all the races. And I hope a Kenyan wins. I've been to Nairobi and Kakamega and Kunamataya. Did I say that right? Kunamataya. Were you number one? This is number one. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow.